Welcome back to the Fire in Your Belly podcast, a podcast for smartish black girls who hate bad theology and love Jesus. Our guest today is an amazing friend who is highly intellectual, well thought through, and in fact needs no introduction. He is also ambitious and well equipped to be discussing today's topic with us. I'm sure many exciting and big things are going to happen in your life, Lelo. So, without further ado, the topic for today is not giving up. It is said that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and thereafter many more steps. Lelo, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor and anything to support you. I thought I'd be the first on the podcast, but being second is also okay. It's not a problem. Yeah, thank you for having me.
One of the things that I remember you telling me is that you were going to go abroad to do your master's. And then at some point I was asking about what I needed to do because I was considering the same, and it was just daunting. Like there was a lot of things to get through. But I just remember the way you were responding and like how you were describing like, no, if you're serious about this, you're gonna push through, and it just showed me your mentality towards anything that you feel is big but you want to achieve it. So what has made you, or what has given you that kind of thing that says don't give up in times where, let's say you're applying for that or you're trying to get into consulting at a high firm? What makes you not give up, or in business, or yeah?
So it's a couple of things. It's a lot of things, you know. Sometimes I do think I'm born with it, but that's when I'm feeling cocky. But I don't necessarily think it's something that you're born with. So I think it's my parents, you know, the upbringing I was raised in, you know, especially my father. He doesn't really believe in you just giving up and not trying. So it's something that was built in me when I was still a young kid, just to always believe in yourself and always believe that things will happen. And also my mom, she would always tell me, joy comes in the morning. Before it becomes bright in the morning, it becomes super dark, you know? So, and that's so crazy about that is that, like, I always remember my mother's words when I'm going through any challenge. I would find that it'll be so dark, like, it'll be so crazy hard, you know, that I wouldn't know, like, oh my gosh, what to do. But I always know when it's getting that dark, I know something's about to happen. So it's that, and also just my belief in Christ, you know. This a verse I have, my verse, it's something I got from a friend of mine, and I was thinking about it like just before this podcast, and it's crazy that the friend who sent me this verse that became my verse is not even Christian, and it's Isaiah 41:10, you know, and just to paraphrase it, it says, "Do not be afraid, I am with you, I am your God, let nothing terrify you. I'll make you strong and help you, I'll protect you and save you." So I always go to that also, you know, when I'm going through something, I just keep on saying that over and over and over. And I know, like, it's been said so many times, like, yo, just read the Bible or whatever. But like, for me, I use that thing, like it becomes a reality, because it's like, I don't know what else to do, you know? You can't force those situations where there's nothing you can do, you know, except pray, which is something I've known. And also just believing that joy will come in the morning, you know. So I think all those factors come into play, and also something that you just mentioned. I don't feel okay if I said I'm going to do something and I don't do it. It's just, I can't, it doesn't sit well until I do it, you know. So that also just drives me, you know.
Ooh, yeah. It's so interesting that you say that, because yesterday Joe Biden quoted that scripture that joy cometh in the morning. I want to throw something in just regarding what you've just said around what keeps you going, what drives you. How then do you respond to a no, especially for things you really want? Like, how do you go, okay, cool, I'm going to keep going, I'm going to strive, but I just got to know. And it hurt. How do you keep going?
So I'm going to give you a context to something that is recent. So you know, I just finished my MBA last year in the fall. Yeah, it was in the fall last year, and I was doing it in the USA. So there was COVID, the COVID pandemic.
Yeah.
So companies were not hiring in America and back at home, and I'm a foreign student in the USA. A combination of that. Unemployment numbers in America were going sky high than what they used to, you know. So every single company where I was positioned to get a job or an internship, they're like, we're sorry to inform you that, you know. So there was this season of no's to things that I really wanted.
I know this.
You know? I wanted to get into these companies and I was getting no's. And like sometimes I would be like, God, what is wrong with me? And to honestly tell you this, and I haven't written to my professor. It's crazy. There's this thing that we did. There's a course in my MBA in leadership. There's this thing that we did. It's called a rejection journal. So basically, for 4 or 5 weeks, I don't know if it's 2 months or 5 weeks. I don't remember quite well. So you keep a journal where you go to people or places to get a no. You're expecting a no, and you journal how you doubted it. You know, it's to make you stronger from being rejected. So a lot of people in my class were taking this thing like it's a joke. I also did at some point like that. Why is this professor making us do such things, Mona? We are doing an MBA here. So what is this thing of us doing journals?
It's a yes degree.
and it's crazy that that journal became the thing that I used to overcome this. And I remembered my professor's words. He said, Lelo, it's not you that they're saying no, it's the paper. They can't say no to the person because once they know the person, they cannot ever say no to them. So don't take it personally. It's never you. They say no to what they see and what's been given, whether it's good or bad. Maybe they don't need it at that point in time, or maybe you just weren't the right pick. But what is yours will come to you, and you just need to believe in that. So every time I got a no, I'd be like, Lelo, it's not you they're saying no to. It's the paper they're saying no to. So don't personalize this thing like you're being rejected. And also that rejection journal, because it will challenge us to do like things that you wouldn't normally do. Just an example I'd give you of something where I got a no in my rejection journal. I wrote to a high-profile policy person in America who works in a global organization just to have a coffee with them. And they said no to me, you know? And that maybe another person would say, oh, obviously you knew they were going to say no. But there were also some things that I did which I would expect people to say yes, but they said no, you know? Or going to a restaurant and saying, I don't have money, would it be okay if I don't pay for my meal? Something that some people think is stupid. So like that rejection journal, I think for me, it's a recent example. It's something I would use to say, when I got a no, I think I put aside that it wasn't about me, or it's not me that they're saying no to. It's paper. But it did sting, you know. It's not like it didn't sting. It does sting, you know. And you need to give yourself a break also.
I am so gonna have a rejection journal. I like it. I feel like it makes you stronger. Like in some kind of ways, people who've been rejected less don't get to have that experience of being rejected, which often strengthens your bone of resilience, of just being like, okay, I'm gonna bounce back. I'm gonna bounce back. So yeah, definitely gonna have a rejection journal. So is there anything in your life where you've been like, okay, I'm gonna give up on this, um, because of something else, or because you've got a greater objective later on? And how did you differentiate whether you should give up or you shouldn't give up on certain things?
There are things, okay, I'm going to talk about myself personally, that I have given up, you know? Um, and it took me a long time. This particular thing, which I'm going to talk about, it took me a long time um, to know that I'm not in a right space, or I'm not in the right place for me, you know? And it was very difficult, like I've mentioned earlier, that I'm a person who is very driven. I don't want to give up, and I don't believe like in giving up. So it took so much, because I had given up mentally. Then there had to be the physical part, which also was a struggle, you know, because it was like I'm letting the situation or the people or whatever it is win. So what the discernments that I took or I made for me to know that this thing isn't right for me and I need to let it go or give up on it was every time I woke up to do this particular thing. So to give you context of what I'm talking about, it was I'm a mining engineer by training, and I worked at the mines. And my plan was to spend maybe maximum of 3 or 4 years. I think maximum was 3 years, and then pivot into consulting or investment banking or something along those lines, right? And pay back the company because they gave me a bursary to go to school. So I needed to honor that, you know, and I didn't have an issue with that. And then the last year was just to get a little bit of more practical knowledge or whatever the case may be. And the first day in Dombi, I was at work. My heart was not there. Like everything about me was like, I hate the place I'm at, you know? And it only got worse as the years went by. And
I can attest.
all my friends are asking me, like, it's like, why are you still there? Because you hate what you're doing, you know? And I'm like, no, guys, I'm not going to be that number who runs away. Or because for me at that point, it was like running away or whatever the case may be. But I physically couldn't wake up some days to go to work or do my job. I did my job to the best of my ability. I had no issues. Like, I did my work. Like, that one I still see, because the excellence thing with me is always there. But that I hated it. You know, I hated myself. I hated everything about it, waking up, doing the job. So I feel if the space that you're in for long periods of time, I won't give people a timeline, but for me, it was more than 4 years. I think you need to leave, but 4 years is too long, you know? I still pinch myself and say, Lelo, you took too long to give up on this. So if you're unhappy, you're eating, your diet is changing, the mindset, the stuff you're doing, you're just not happy. I think it's time for you to let that thing go, because it's not what you want. You know, whether it's giving you a lot of money, whatever the case may be, I just don't think it's good for you. You know, so for me, I know for future, if I'm not happy mentally, I'm not okay. Physically, I'm not okay. And it's affecting me. Now I'm taking pills, a lot of pills. I know there's something. And you're just waking up every day. Not, you need to force it the time for you to give up at some point. So, yeah.
I think that I can relate 1,000,000%. I even remember being honest with myself and being like, because I think whenever people ask me questions like, are you going to change? I'm like, yeah, definitely going to change. And then at the back of my head, it's like, why haven't you left mining? You know, like, why haven't, if you're really going to change? I'm like, oh, actually, let me be honest with myself. That was a very tough place to walk, tough decision, still tough. But yeah, it's very hard. I don't know. I think if you're more of a hardworking person, and I finish what I start, it's harder to quit things that you should quit. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's like there's that thing where in your head you're like, no, I started it, I need to finish it, and it's like, just go, just stop, just relax.
No, you're right. You're right about that. That's why I'm saying I had that struggle, right? Because if I put something down, I must finish it.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think it's mining. It's the environment, right? Some people love it. It wasn't for me. We all have our phases or our walks in life that we need to go to. Some people, that's their walk. But for some of us, it wasn't. And for me, it wasn't, because I'm saying on the first day in a production site, I wasn't happy. You know, it wasn't about the money or the people. I wasn't happy. So you can be in investment banking or consulting or start a business and not be happy, or in another country and not be happy. That in itself is telling you it's not about who's saying what to you. Like you are saying at the back of your mind, you knew you didn't need people to say that. But even people, because we're energy beings, they could feel that energy that you're unhappy, you know? So, yeah.
Sure. For some good or strange reason, I've read quite a bit this January. And I feel like there's this resounding sort of message in a lot of things that I've read is like, just keep going, right? Especially if you want to achieve big things or certain things that you really want to achieve or things God has placed on your heart. And a big thing that people have said is that there's nothing special about people who achieve things. There's really nothing special about the one person to the next, right? There's no more like, oh, you got this extra favor, you know. But what it is that two people can start on a journey, and then one's gonna go, it's too much for me. Let me just go back. Halfway, they're like, no, I'm good, and then the other one keeps going, and then tomorrow we'll be like, how come you're there now? It's because you just persisted, you kept going. What would you say, or why we should persist, especially if you've got a conviction about something? So maybe so you leave the areas that, okay, this is not for me. I know I've discerned, I've prayed about it. This is not for me. But the places that you believe are for you, when the going gets tough or it gets long, why should we persist, or why should we push through?
First of all, I want to quote a quote I wrote down. I think this was E.T. Eric Thomas. I think you know him, and your listeners might know him. He said, I think it was him, I'm not sure if I'm wrong, people can Google it. Failure cannot cope with persistence. Woo! And those are facts.
I like that.
You know?
Yeah.
Those are major facts. Why does he say that? And what you were saying, what is difference with Undombi and the next person? What is different? You know? And it's such a stupid, simple thing, but like, when we see these people doing these amazing things, you're like, yo, but no, there's nothing different. You can also do that in your lane, whatever your lane is. It's about not giving in the things that you love and you like doing. It's you persisting and pushing. And it's something I learned. Again, I'm going back. Anchor bias. I'm going back to my MBA. It's crazy. All these things I learned there, they're coming out now. There's this thing they kept drilling they kept drilling into us, growth mindset. You know? And that thing is a real thing. Like, growth mindset is a real thing. Like, they'll tell us, the people who don't give up and keep on pushing and pushing and pushing, somewhere along the line they'll get there. You spoke about Joe Biden. The man is, I think, 79. He's president of the United States of America. Kamala Harris, vice president, first black person of color, Asian, vice president of color in the United States. Think about that. She found her life partner at what age?
Yeah,
you know? Exactly. But then society or whatever it is gonna pressurize you to think. And I'm not saying people shouldn't do things when they're young. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, like, the guys that don't give up, they get there. Elon Musk, I was reading about him the other day and watching his videos. people just think Elon came out now. Elon been pushing. If you read the story when he left South Africa and when he went to America, how he lived, the guy was sleeping at YMCA.
Yep.
According to what he said in his book. So people just see the end result. They don't see what the guy's been pushing. Amazon, another example, I was watching a documentary. 20, 30 years ago, Amazon was struggling. When I say struggling, I mean they were not making profit. And they weren't known. There were other big companies back then. It was Microsoft and Yahoo and whatever companies that were big. Amazon was a nobody at that time. It was a nobody company. Now its stock price is at 3,000 or more. The guy, one of the richest people in the world. But if you go to the backstory, you will see the guy's been pushing. So that hunger, and there's something I caught also that he said, and I always say to myself, every day is day one.
Yeah.
Hence why he's where he's at, So I just feel, honestly, when you sit and think about it, it's nothing different about it. And I'm a history nerd. I love history, and I read a lot. And I always look at history to understand the guys who came before us. What did they do? So during the Black Lives thing, I was reading about the people in South Africa, mainly in South Africa, the struggle veterans, heroes who fought apartheid. And I was reading about Abo Nelson Mandela, and I was asking myself, the man went to prison for 27 years and
his
still
entire
became
life.
president of the country. Conspiracy theories or not conspiracy theories, the man went to prison for 27 years and still became president. When you sit and you think about that, and then you ask yourself, why can't you do it? And I understand we don't come from, we don't have the same backgrounds and what. Another example, Umlambo Mnuga, I don't know if you know her.
Pumzi, yeah.
Yes, I was watching an interview when I was home during December holiday, she's the director in the UN Women's Council. That is a major thing.
Yep.
And if you ask yourself, right? And if you do your history about Inanda, you understand that is like she has gone through boundaries, she's broken all the barriers or whatever to where she's gotten. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, that is some crazy stuff. And you need yourself, what is different? Because and to get in the UN, results speak there.
Yeah.
And I listened to an interview where she was talking with Lapana. When they're interviewing you, it's not about Tubuti, Wasban, whatever. Your results and your game needs to be unlocked, So when you read about these people and then you sit and then you ask yourself, Tina, we grew up in freedom. And yes, we come from disenfranchised backgrounds, but we can still push, So for me, those are the things I use to say, Lelo, there's nothing that can stop you or that's different from the next person. There's that young lady who, the poet from yesterday's inauguration. That poem, yes, I'm still listening to it. When you see that, you're like, no, come on. She tells you I'm from slaves, from a single mother. That should push you, because really, if you've been given life on this earth by God, there's a reason for it, guys. There's a reason for it. So, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, those all of those names you dropped were just like wow, and yet people had humble beginnings. humble beginnings. I think most things worth achieving, as you've put it, whether it is in business, education, your personal goal, or even goals that you have that have been placed on your heart that you can't even trace back, like, Lord, why did you place this? Why me? They all don't happen overnight, and they require, like you said, persistence. One of the interesting things that I found out in December is that between the Old Testament and the New Testament, there was like a 400-year sort of, not, I wouldn't say a gap, but there was a 400-year span, right? Which means, because especially reflecting on the birth of Jesus, I was like, okay, cool, Jesus has come, right? But it's like they had been waiting, right? And I think that it would have been easy to say, I'm going to give up, or this thing is never going to happen for them. But then the stakes were so high. It's like, are you going to receive a whole entire Messiah and get salvation and get everything? Or are you just going to be like, it's never coming? So when it came, and because of a lot of things that happened that have been recorded, they were able to identify that, okay, it's happening now. The Jews that did identify, and the greatest thing in their lives happened, right? So, with that said, I wanted to ask about instant gratification, right? How important is it for us to tell ourselves that we shouldn't give up?
I like what you're talking about, like that conversation. I think our generation needs to have it because we grew up differently, especially the generation after us, since we are millennials and the Gen Zs and the ones that comes after them, and social media also, like you're mentioning the words viral, that everything you need to do needs to be viral for you to feel that it happened. And it's a wrong way of looking at it. It's not just in terms of goals, but also in terms of our relationships. When I say relationships, either romantically or friendships, we want that. And relationships are built over time, hence why they last for life, So I think that is something as a generation we need to speak about. But I think from my side, again, my upbringing, it took my parents 21 years. I left home when I was 18, but I'm going to say 21 because that's when I'm an adult and I make my own decisions. It took 21 years to be where I am. And when I say to be where I am, I'm talking about to have my own home and own car. And us as Black people, that's a big achievement. For other people, it might not be. Some other people might not have personalizing it now. I'm just making an example about something. For somebody else, it would be just so simple. It took me 21 years just to be able to get those things. And then we think other things are just going to come like that. And then when I look at that, me personally, when I sit and I look at that, I think, oh, it's okay. If I want such a big goal, it might come faster than I think, but it's going to take time. Because it took me 12 years to go to school for me to be able to go to university. To go to university in order to get a job or have a business. So what makes me think, hey, it's when I do something, man, it's going to be viral. You mentioned another thing, the time span between the Old Testament and the New Testament, where you talk about the coming of Jesus. They kept believing and believing, So it's a conscious thing now as a person of Mozart, another example, like I can think of it, that I can, for a person, for a mother to give birth to us, she carries us for 9 months. There's a process during that 9 months. I guess first month, second month, third month, fourth month, fifth month, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months. There's a process. You can't skip those processes. Otherwise, no payment the way that you're supposed to be. And yes, I know some people come later or earlier, but let's deal with the 9 months for the context. So we'll see. There's a process. When you plant something, it takes time. Are we planting? I'm planting home. So when you look at those things, another thing we can look at is nature. Sure. Some other people say, I don't believe in nature, but I'm saying in nature, as humans, we cannot control it. It'll do what it wants to do. You understand? And I think I look at things that way. And that's why, for me, I can't just believe in instant gratification. In fact, when something is instant, I get scared. I feel like it's wrong and probably not for me. You know? So it's like I was talking to a friend with mina sengibini lot. Yo ngasaba ukuthi ayingeke le mali ize kalula kakhulu. Ngayibuyisa futhi. Because I feel like angisebenzelanga, like I'm saying,
I keep it, but yeah.
When the instant personal instant gratification, young talks, I become uneasy. I don't like it, you know. So in a process, Norma, I'm old school. I know manje. It's through the DM. I actually don't even know how it's done. Actually, I'm willing to that. But Moshe, back in the day, you used to call umuntu wakho for his card, months. Yeah. Not a day, months. Call DM la. Yeah, share every day. Every day. Everyone was serious. Ngiyatestana phela serious or I'm serious. Watching, I went the float just. So I mean I'm old school kanjalo. So then my instantaneous. Yes, I'm sorry.
Oh wow. Yeah, hey. It's just funny how you talk about like Ukshela and stuff, but it's such a great example, like because it took long, you even trust the person a little more. You're like, hey, this person, who's that mean? So yeah. Definitely. And then when you get things too quickly and too easily, sometimes you also lose them quickly because you're like, I don't remember the uphold getting here, so I'll roll down quickly because, it's something that just came, easy come, easy go. So just in closing, we probably dropped a number of gems. But just, what hope do we hold on to when we feel like giving up? Even though you're on the right path, you're doing the thing that you're supposed to be doing, but you're like, okay, I told myself all the right things. I I spoke to myself. I tried to encourage myself, and myself is like, nah. Yeah, for those like breaking points, what hope can we hold to?
Honestly, Ndombi, to tell you the honest truth, whether it's cliche or not, me. And I'm proof of this because, like you mentioned, I went to the USA. That's a whole story, a whole podcast by its own. But me, with everything God has done for me, from the time going to varsity, having a bursary, not paying school fees. I've never paid school fees since I don't know when. God has been so faithful. So, I just truly believe what is yours will come to you. And I know during the pressing, his song, that's it, in the pressing.
The crushing.
Lyrics,
in the
pressing,
you are making new lines. Yeah.
They say in the pressing. And people sing, awucula vele uthi God ngiyafuna take me in.
Yeah.
And you just saying
you'll be like, I surrender.
Yes, I surrender. It's I surrender, okay. And people like, I want to be in the furnace,
yeah.
And they say these things, but they don't know what they are saying. And I say, be careful, there's an Ntombi.
Yeah.
Because when you pass, that's pray for your patience. Our Mudima will test you. So be careful sometimes when they're sure. I do speak. What I'm trying to say to you, with the question you asked, I truly believe, because I've seen it time and again, and the season that I just came out of, and the season that I'm in now. I'm in a very good season, but like the past year and a half or 2 years has been a very hard season, a crazy season. And I remember saying to my wife, to your previous question earlier, when you were saying, when you get those no's, I remember saying to my wife, hey, Muna, all these people saying no. And she would say, what is yours will be yours. So if Betty no, you're not meant to be.
It's not yours.
And I'm seeing it now. It wasn't mine, Dom. And I'm seeing it now. There are so many opportunities where I thought I'm getting. Like, I'll make an example. I applied for this other post in Australia, knowing very well when I'm from Australia, I have no business going there. I've never wanted. But now you kind of apply. Then, like, people that are close to me are like, why are you getting hurt? Because even if they give you the thing, you're not going to go.
Sure.
And I'm like,
that'll preach.
So what is not yours? And this thing is very, if we were sometimes, because our mental can only take us so far, then sometimes in spirit, what is yours will come to you. You need to really believe in that. And I take it from a passage in Ezekiel 37. It's God woke me up or whatever, I paraphrase. And he spoke to the dry. He said, speak to the dry bones.
Yes.
And when I spoke to the dry bones, there was life in the dry bones. Meaning, if ukhuluma nama dry bones and there's no life, those dry bones are not yours. They are somebody else's.
Sure.
And you must chill.
Sheesh.
So and it's hard, bro. Like, I know, because I went through the pressing. I couldn't tell me I'm feeling new wine. Bengicula le ngoma ngithi ngifuna new wine. You are my champion. Oh, better ngithi Hillsong. Ngiculo iy'ngoma ze-Joyous lapha. Ngithi ngino-Jesus. Okay. Unana ngithi. Asibone. So those things, that's why I ngithi mina. When you truly, truly believe, and saying uNkulunkulu hayi ukuthi ngiyamazi, I'll never understand it. That's why it's God. But from what I've seen in my short time in this earth, when he really says, I'm not saying izinto zakho and then you sit. No, guys. Yeah. I'm not saying it that way. You need to put in work. Yeah. I was putting in work. I was telling my dad during the holidays, I haven't rested since September 2019. Literally not sleeping. During the December holidays when people were out seeing family, I was studying. I was pushing. I was working, for an exam that I was writing 3 days before Christmas. I was working on projects, on assignments, So when I say that, I'm not saying, it's yours, to know. You put in the work and the hours, So, but what I'm trying to say also is, what is yours, dude, will not be given to anybody else. It will go to you. You need to believe. And also, if you don't want to wrong, your energy will tell you again. But I really believe if something is yours, it will come to you. You don't need to force it. God's timing is never wrong. It's another thing I learned again very early in 2021. With his timing, he knows what to do. If you're a believer, he knows. Yeah. So, yeah. If you didn't catch it, I don't know when you will catch it, but I caught it today. I caught it. Thank you so much, Lelo. Yes, I think there were so many gems. There were so many gems. There were so many gems. So yeah, thank you for visiting. Thank you for coming to the show virtually. And yeah, thank you for sharing your story, sharing with us, being honest, being encouraging. And yeah, I'm excited for your life. I know there's going to be a lot of amazing things. Please don't forget me. Please don't sideline me. Please don't be like, oh, now I'm too ready. No, please. I just want to, reserve my seat right now before later. But yeah, thank you guys. Please make sure that you subscribe on iTunes and also on Google so that you never miss an episode. And I wish you all grace and peace.